Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, world, from wherever you're watching me from, and welcome to another edition of Live with OSA special broadcast. So today we have something, really, really beautiful planned out for you. And you'd agree with me that in the last couple of months, the issue concerning children and all kind of things that have been going on is risen to such worrisome proportions, if I dare say. And today with me in the studio is somebody who I love to refer to as a child whisperer. And her name is Ronke Adeniyi, aka RonkePosh. Before I bring her into the studio, I just want to let you know that today we'll be talking about the Nigerian child, an endangered species. And I tell you, Ronke is someone who has been in the forefront of leading advocacy for parenting, not just parent rights, as well as the rights of the child. So I'll quickly just play her bio, a very brief bio, I dare say, and I'll just invite her into the studio without much ado. So,
Ronke Adeniyi, fondly called RonkePosh, is a fun-loving, energetic, and enthusiastic lady, a lover of God, a wife, and mom. She holds a BSc in biochemistry from the Queen Mary University of London and a master's degree in business administration from the University of Hull in the United Kingdom. She is a certified and experienced Montessori directress. She received her training from the Modern Montessori Institute in London and holds a postgraduate diploma in education. With vast experience in the banking, telecommunications, education, and children's entertainment sectors, she is also a serial education entrepreneur who loves to empower and motivate the young and old to greater heights. She owns what has been described as the best preschool and primary school in Ikoyi, Lagos, Nigeria, called the Posh School. She is the founder of the Helps at Homes initiative, now called Parent Right, which focuses on parenting in the 21st century and the proper recruitment of domestic workers in homes in order to prevent risks to families. She is passionate about the subject as a result of being a victim herself after she relocated to Nigeria from the United Kingdom. RonkePosh has a keen interest in protecting children who are often the victims of dangerous domestic workers. RonkePosh is also a parenting practitioner, a certified family life therapist, and practitioner of neuro-linguistics programming (NLP). She uses this to coach, train, and support parents who either need counseling or treatment for their children. RonkePosh also runs a children's entertainment company called Posh Party Packs. She runs training courses online and offline, and she is also a public speaker who has spoken in several schools, TV stations, churches such as the Redeemed Christian Church of God (RCCG), the Redeemed Evangelical Ministries (TREM), the Father's House, Deeper Life Church, etc. RonkePosh has been featured on many platforms such as NTA, TVC, Plus TV Africa, Guardian newspaper, Nation newspaper, and several blogs. She's also the author of 2 best-selling books for kids, Bright Kid 101 2018, and the newly published books 101 Tips to Curb the Beating and Shouting.
So without much ado, you would agree with me that she actually comes well loaded. Her antecedents speak for themselves. So without much ado, I'll welcome RonkePosh into our studio. Hello, Ronke. How are you
Good
doing?
evening, ma'am. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you. And good evening to everyone online.
Yes, good evening. Like I said while we're backstage, I said it's actually an honor for me to have you here with us in the studio, because I think for some time I've been wanting to, especially with the core issues that have been going on in recent times concerning the Nigerian child, and I'm glad that you avail us of your time this evening. So without much ado, we've read out your bio and all that, and I dare say I would like to add something. I'd like to call you the child whisperer. And as we go along, I'm sure people will understand why I choose to call you that. So, okay, this evening, And I hope you don't mind if I call you Ronke.
It's fine. That's my name.
Okay, good. Yes. So this evening we're seeing the Nigerian child, an endangered species. And I'm wondering, what's your take on that? Do you actually agree that the Nigerian child is more or less endangered? And if so, why do you think, what are the issues that you think puts the Nigerian child on the endangered list?
Okay. Whilst I understand the angle at which the topic, Nigerian endangered species, I think I understand where you're coming from, but allow me to come from another angle, which is the fact that the Nigerian child cannot be an endangered species. So I took my time out to go and even check what is an endangered species. You know, how can a Nigerian child be an endangered species? Is it that we're not relevant or what's going on? And it's something that is going into extinction. Is the Nigerian child going into extinction? Is it possible that we are like the polar bears or the rare elephants that are going away and you're not going to see them again, ever again? Nigerians are so brilliant. Nigerians are so amazing. So can we possibly be an endangered species? As a matter of fact, I think we're a very sought after species. We have countries coming here to pick up our doctors, coming here to pick up a lot of our human capital. So it's not possible for us to be an endangered species. I'm sure before we finish this conversation, there will be maybe, who knows, 500 more Nigerian babies that are born this night, and maybe 2,000 more that will be conceived. I heard that in a couple of years we'll be the most populated country in the whole world. So is it possible for us to be an endangered species? I don't think so. It's not possible. Having said that, I do understand where you're coming from, because if the children don't get the right, and if they're not in the right environment, if they're not getting the right resources, so just like planting something, if you're not getting the right food, clothing, and shelter, the education, are they going to be competitive? Are they going to be relevant worldwide? So that is why we are here today. That's what we're going to discuss today.
Exactly.
The opportunities are there. With the right government, with the right interventions, I do believe that we're a country that we can rebuild again. We can rebuild. We can do more. Many schools are doing their best to ensure that our children get the right education. But when it comes to the challenges that children have, it's not a Nigerian thing. I'm in the UK at the moment, and I hear and I see things that are happening. You know, we can say that the children worldwide actually are endangered species as well. A lot of them don't want to go to school. A lot of them are violent when it comes to their teachers. A lot of parents are not present when it comes to their parenting. So the children are just a challenge onto society. So the problem that we have with parenting is global. The problem that we have with education is not unique to Nigeria, but Nigeria happens to be one of the countries that we are not investing as much into our educational system. We need to invest significantly more so that we can be significantly more competitive on a global scale.
Wonderful. I guess you just threw some light on something. We can't actually speak of the Nigerian child in isolation without talking about the global child. And the question here, I'm glad you kind of understand where we're coming from. It's not so much whether the Nigerian child is becoming extinct, but the fact that we adults who are responsible for the children are creating situations where the child is endangered. You know, when we're talking about laws of child endangerment and things like that. But we'll go into that more in detail as we go ahead. So I want to first ask you, you know, you said you definitely understand the angle I'm coming from. So the question I want to ask is this: what do you think are the specific factors that are responsible for whatever it is poses a threat to children?
Well, we can't absolve the government of everything that is going on. It's not just the children, it's us too, even the adults. That's why a lot of people are running away, running away. So it's the state of the nation. That's the first thing, is the state of the nation. As a result of the state of the nation, the pressures in society as well. People are hustling, really hustling, so they don't have time for their families. And families are the bedrock of society. Another issue that we have is the quality of education that we have. We have very poor teacher training, very poor teacher professional development going on around generally in the country.
Why do you think that's happening? Why do you think that's happening?
The poor quality of teachers. Yeah, because they're not investing. The government is not investing in education. There's a lot of corruption going on, and even in the educational system, there's a lot of corruption. So you find that people buy results. Even in secondary schools now, they buy results. There are special centers. So teachers are cheating their way. They don't have the content. They don't know how to teach. They don't know what to teach, and they buy their way out of schools. They buy their projects, and they get into the classroom. They have very little to offer the children. So it's a vicious cycle. But I believe that once we begin to at least begin to get you see, corrupt government is everywhere. It's not unique to Nigeria.
It's
It's not only in Nigeria that they're
everywhere.
stealing money. It's everywhere. It's just that our own is too much. We eat
At
with
least the others, they
hands,
will steal
two
and
hands
run
and 2 feet.
small.
We don't, other countries, they will do the work and they will eat some of the money, and but we eat everything with our 2 hands, our 2 feet. We eat everything, and it's such a mess. That's our challenge. We have to be able to eat and live, if at all we must eat, and make sure
We
that things are
must do
happening for
something.
the people in the. So I'm really hoping and praying to God, just like many of us are doing, that when it comes to the next election, that we'll begin to see the change that we deserve and we desire so much, so that gradually our educational system will begin to pick up, our economic system, our whole society will pick up, our roads, our health care, our transport system. Is there any system in Nigeria that is fully functional? I doubt it. Our police, our military, everything needs to be rebuilt. And it's not impossible because countries have done it. It's not impossible. It looks vague, it looks impossible, but I know people are running away. This mass exodus is happening, but it's not the first
It's
time.
horrific. It's horrific.
It's not the first time that it will happen in Nigeria, and it's not the last time that it will happen in Nigeria. Nigeria will be great again. Things are going to happen. There's going to be change. It's going to be attractive again. Our currency will pick up again,
Yeah.
and it's not just faith talk. I know that there are people that they will die here,
Yeah,
until
they
this
would
country,
rather.
yeah,
Yeah,
until
that's
this
true.
country is good again. As much as I
That's
can, I
true.
think I want to believe that I'm one of them, even though sometimes it's so discouraging. But I want to believe that I'm one of the people that are committed to ensuring that
That
things
things.
I will contribute my quota, because I cannot sit in the Western world or anywhere else and be complaining and say, oh, they don't do this. What are you doing as an individual? There's no one president that's going to bring the change. It has to be the people, it has to be everybody. So, what are you going to do to ensure that you are doing your own quota instead of just talking and babbling and babbling? You go and sit somewhere else and expect a miracle to happen. It has to be a
Exactly.
collective effort. Everybody has to be doing their bit. You're not littering. You're trying not to pay bribes. You're trying not to litter. Simple things. You're paying your domestic workers, because they will blame the government, but they will have people that they're using as slaves in their homes. People are doing one thing or the other. We are all guilty
Exactly.
one way or the other, but we'll be blaming other people. We're blaming other people. We're cheating in this area, cheating, even buying results for our children, but then we'll still blame the government. So
And we
one,
still
you
blame
see,
the
anybody that
government.
the most difficult job in the world is is going to belong to whoever is going to be the president of Nigeria.
Uneasy lies the
That's
head,
going to,
right?
sorry, what did you say?
I said uneasy lies the head that wears the crown.
I'm telling you, that is just it. It's not going to be a walk in the park. It's going to be a challenge. But if we're going to ensure that we support this person, I pray that we get the right candidate, and I pray that we get the support of the people in the country, because it's a real mess right now, especially when it comes to security. Everybody's really worried. There's
And
nobody
all
that
of and
feels safe.
that's right. All of this actually affects the child as well. There's something
Absolutely.
yes, there's something you said. You said you're doing your quota, and I want to agree with you, and that's where I'm coming to right now. And in doing your quota, you're wearing a lot of caps. You're an author, you're a Montessori directress, you're a school founder, and all of that. So I'm sure there's something that normally happens in terms of your interactions, and that's the importance of interacting with parents. So what role do you think the parents have? What role do they play? What role do they still have yet to play? And what role, in all honesty, do you think parents have played in, let's put government aside now, in what exactly is happening that it seems the child might likely get endangered, since you believe they're not outrightly endangered?
You see, parents need to be present. Parents need to be present. The love language that children generally understand is when the parent is actually present for them and available for them. We have too many parents that are not available. Before we used to say it was the fathers that were not available. Now we see that, and that's not an excuse. It's not every father should be available. Once you start having children, you should get ready to be available. But now we find that even moms are not available because everybody is trying to do whatever they can to put the food on the table. Everybody, in
Exactly.
fact, now we have issues of even firstborn children now. Oh yeah, join. Let's just eat. Let's just eat. Everybody is like, it's challenging. But the parent has to build the home because it's not enough for us to eat. It's not enough for us to send our children to school. If they don't
Exactly.
have good moral values, if they don't have home training, if they are not behaving well, they may have the best grades, but they will be corrupt, they will be wicked, they will go out and they will be a menace to society. So
Exactly.
parents have to make sure that they work hand in hand with the schools. They should partner with schools. We don't want to hear stories of parents beating a teacher, slapping a teacher, and all the sort of things that we hear. Local parentis, the teacher is also a parent to your child when the child is on the school premises. The teacher is responsible for your child. If somebody is responsible for your child, what do? You partner with that person so that you can work and get the best for that child. That's what we ought to be doing. We have to be collaborating with the teachers. We have to make sure that we have time to train these children, enough of the over reliance on domestic workers. Nobody's saying don't have the house help or a nanny,
Over
but when they now
reliance.
become the main, they're the one that will cook, clean, take the children to school, change the diaper, do everything, do homework. Even
Everything.
at some point, they were even sending them to PTAs. That schools had to start saying, no, we can't send your
Oh yes,
children to PTA. What type of
I've seen
nonsense
that.
is this? So parents don't want to be parents. They want to slay on Instagram. They want to travel the world. They want to enjoy themselves and stuff like that. But they want society to say they have children. And then we have matters of um, these days, with a lot of exposure, let me use that word, with a lot of exposure, we find that there's a lot of conflict in the homes. Even the parents, they're not necessarily showing good examples to the children in the homes. And there's a lot of tension in the home. There's a lot of marital challenges in the homes. So the children are seeing it, and a lot of them are traumatized. Imagine if a man is beating his wife, or a wife is beating her husband, or a woman has multiple partners coming into the home, or
Yeah.
she's a lesbian, and the children are
Yeah.
seeing all sorts of things, all sorts of negative examples, or daddy is sleeping with the house girl, or they are beating up the house
And they
girl
see
and the
these
driver in
things,
the compound.
they see
They
these things.
see these things and they're traumatized, they are scarred, and they grew up and they become worse because they said that our children will do better than us. Whatever we are telling them to do, whatever we are training them to do, when it's their own turn, they will do times 100. So the children are seeing this. That's why you find that in schools there's a lot of antisocial behavior. Those children don't feel loved. They go into schools, they bully other children, they're horrible to their mates, they're challenging for their teachers. There's so many challenges out there these days. So we must ensure that we parent and we are available and we parent our children in love. We must parent our children in love. They must see
Parenting
that we
in
love each
love,
other.
parenting in love.
Our culture demands that we must stay together forever, even when we're not in love, even whatever it is. And that's why a lot of people are jackpying these days, and they're all free. They feel free now because they're outside of culture now. Culture is
They're
keeping a lot of
outside
people
of
together,
culture. Yeah.
and the children don't even know how to love. So they go out there, and a lot of people have said that the parents that parented our generation did a poor job training their children, particularly the men. That's why they don't know how to love the women or support the women. And people are being told now that get your boys to be cautious, let them do
Be
work, let them be
cautious.
equal with
Let
the
them
girls.
show
you
emotions.
know
Yeah.
let them be emotional, let them be human. It's not only the girl that will do this, do that, run around, and you sit down and watch TV. So we're trying to change the narrative. It's happening little by little, but there's still this entitlement mentality that women are still being offered the short end of the stick. So there's
Which
so
is
many
true.
issues
Which is true.
out there. But I must say that it's not solely a Nigerian issue. It's a global issue. And I know that the enemy comes to steal, to kill, to destroy. Things are
Yes.
happening,
Yes.
and we're
Yes.
going to see a lot more, a lot of things, things are going to be worse. The
Before they
important thing is
get
that we
better.
protect
Before they
the
get better.
children. We must protect those children. We must protect those children. Whatever is happening in the home, keep them away from it. Make sure they're not inside of it. Make sure they're not seeing these bad examples. But the thing is, can you give what you don't have? If you're a bully, if you're a violent person, if you're doing all those sort of things, how do you want to teach your children not to be that way when they see your own examples?
When they see it, when that
So
that's you just hit the nail on the head.
It's a vicious cycle out there. But as much as we can, we have to continue to speak up. We have to continue to teach. Today I spoke at a women's event, moms, it's a moms group, and I spoke there, and there were single moms there and all sorts of things. And I said to them that irrespective of your marital status, even if it's grandparents that are just parents' rights. I tell people, and that's why I don't do marriage online. I don't bring my marriage online.
Yes,
because I want to be relatable. I want you to know that whether you are married or you're not married, you can still be a good parent. Parenting is not, you don't get it right just because you are married. You get it right because you are intentional. So you must be intentional with your parenting.
You get parenting right, not because of your marital status. I hope somebody out there is listening. You get parenting right.
Even I like
choose to be intentional. Oh my goodness, you get parenting right because you choose to be intentional. I think that'll be an eye-opener for somebody or anybody out there who is watching this, who would think, because most times you always see this dichotomy, maybe during Mother's Day or Father's Day, and you see things like the mother that is also a father and a mother and all of that, and there seems to be this struggle, and sometimes it might affect the child emotionally. And that brings me to the next question. In your book, 101 tips for, is it beating and shouting, to curb the beating and shouting? I remember when the book first came out, and the promotional video you made of yourself and your daughter, where she was listening and you came and what are you doing? TikTok shouting and all of that. And you also, you spoke on the importance of emotional intelligence. And something else you said, look, that we should understand that the children we are raising now are the alpha generation. Yes, we know we call them Generation Z, but it was quite interesting that you called them the alpha generation. Okay, you have to agree that these children, they seem way too smart. I have older ones, but I have a 14-year-old. And sometimes he trumps me, in the way he thinks or processes things. So now I want to ask you this, because you're not just a school owner and all that. You are into NLP, you are into parenting, advocacy, and all of that. How do you think we can bridge the gap in order that our kids, they thrive, the alpha generation thrive? How do you think we can bridge the gap for emotional intelligence? Because really, most parents don't get it. And because if they don't get it at home, they get it somewhere else. The children get it somewhere else. How do we bridge the gap?
Okay, thank you. So the children that are alpha gens and those born after 2010, those are the alpha gen children. And for us to ensure that our children are emotionally stable, we have to be emotionally stable. It's as simple as that. You can't be aggressive and a shouter and all those sort of things and expect your children to become cool and collected. Even if they are, because you beat them and smack them, they are only suppressing their emotions. Those are the ones that go out there and blow up because they've suppressed and suppressed. So I always tell parents that it's important that you go through a lot of personal development, not just professional development. You must be able to expand your mind. You must be able to learn, and you must be able to teach yourself and read books. These days we have audio books. We have books on YouTube, scribed everywhere. There's access to information. You should be reading, and you should be a lifelong learner. You must understand that how you were parented is not how the Gen Z or the Alpha Gen require to be parented. Parenting in itself is not innate. We've been lied to that, once you have a child, you know how to do it, blah, blah, blah. If we know how to do it, then some of us will not be getting post-traumatic stress disorder and all those sort of things afterwards. Because some people, once the baby comes, they are going crazy. And that's not because they are lazy or anything. It's just, it is not innate. Parenting is supposed to be learned. It is supposed, even animals, they help, they do whatever they can, it is not an innate thing. We must be willing to learn. If you tell people to come and do parenting course, they don't want to put money down, but they will put money down to do Ashwebi and all those sort of things. If you tell them, come and do a course, how to make 1 million in 6 days, it will be oversubscribed, even though they know that they're lying to them. But come and learn how to build global citizens. Come and learn how to parent right so that you don't have headache later on in your life. You will not see them there. You should be very scanty. Parenting meetings are usually the least attended meetings. And
schools,
because they are the least attended meetings, that is why the state of the nation is the way that it is. If you are beating your children and smacking them and it's working, then why is the country like this? After all our leaders too, they went through the beating and the smacking. It's that trauma that is showing us Pepe now. A lot of them are traumatized. A lot of them are showing us, what they couldn't get away with in their homes, in their secondary school, whatever the case may be. They are now doing it to us. They're doing it to us now. So we must rethink our strategies, our ways, our approaches to doing things as Nigerians. We must begin to do things right, rethink strategies, have consequences for actions. We can't just be doing anything that we want. It's getting out of hand. You are now hearing more and more parents sleeping with their children, mothers sleeping with their children. All those dirty things that it's getting worse. It's getting worse. So we must ensure that there are consequences for this sort of actions. We still live in as much as we want to say, okay, Nigeria is not this, is not that, we still live in a relatively sane environment. Because there's a lot of perversion out there. A lot of perversion. My daughter was telling me she recently started A-levels abroad, and she was telling me that.
Congratulations to her, by the way. And congratulations
thank you, ma'am.
to you as well.
Thank you. So she said her first 2 friends, which I went out of my way to introduce her to because they were all shy, that they're lesbians. And I said, oh, interesting, that they're lesbians. But at this point in time, we're not ignorant. She's not ignorant. I just said, just respect them as human beings. That's their choice. And you're in their country where there's freedom for them to do anything they want. So take it like that. She goes to class again, and this teacher, sociology teacher, is saying that which of the boys in the class are willing to wear a skirt to school?
Not binary.
But someone was like, oh, I don't mind. I can wear a skirt to school, blah, blah. And the teacher is like applauding them and saying, yeah, you're open-minded, blah, blah, blah. So there's subliminal indoctrination of our children into ways that are not in alignment with us, with our value system, typically as religious people, people of faith, or whatever you want to call it. So there's still a reasonable amount of sanity when it comes to those sort of things happening. You can still train your children in an environment where a lot of people still agree with your values.
But your children, you can't cocoon them forever.
You can't cocoon them forever, but you can give them a good foundation.
Exactly.
You now take and go abroad, go and beat them there or threaten them, and they'll call the police on you. So if you think you're running away from something in Nigeria, you will meet another one when you get abroad.
And
your frustration. Go on.
Ronke, why you are kind of the right person for me to talk to about these issues, because you are vastly traveled. Like right now you're in the UK, so it's not as if you're talking to somebody who is only giving us Nigerian models, Nigerian-based models. You are used to the curriculum over there. You're used to hobnobbing with all of these people. So that's the question where I'm coming to now. Most people will say it's because of this influx of, I just got back children who mix with children here who would otherwise, taint the children. But I've always been one to argue that, look, the world is now a global village, like you mentioned earlier. And you don't need to step out of the shores of Nigeria to know what is happening and to choose to be indoctrinated to anything. So the question I want to put to you now is, when is enough enough in terms of keeping these children as African as we can,
Well, that's a tricky question, complex question, I think. When is enough enough? The thing is, irrespective of where you are, if you're intentional about parenting, you can give them your African values and you can give them the right moral values that you set as a family, irrespective of where you live. The only thing is that Nigerians want to be beating children abroad, and it can't work because there's a lot of exposure and a lot of empowerment for those children. Now, if you are living, I for the first 6 years of my daughter's life, she was in the UK. her first words, the Yoruba words. I used to speak Yoruba to her because I knew that by living here, you will understand the English, but I needed to speak Yoruba to her. If we even remained in the UK, we was still that Yoruba I was going to speak because by virtue of going to school, she would understand the English.
You know,
If you
that
give her the
was,
right
sorry, I need to just tell
attention.
you something. That was about the time I first got acquainted with you. Then, you know, you were still living outside the country on Facebook and all of
Oh,
that.
that's a
Yes,
long time.
a long time ago. This is talking about 2008, 2019. You know, I used to be quite intentional about that and still consistent having come back. How did you strike that balance? You know, that's one other thing I'd like you to answer.
What balance?
The balance of the fact that yes, she had her early years there and all of that, but you brought her back and still able to ingrain the values that, I mean, thankfully we saw what happened a couple of months ago when she transited from here to the A levels. So that means at some point, not just you, but her father must have been doing something right. So how did you bridge that gap to still ensure that values were put in place? Because somebody out there might benefit from it.
In terms of values for her, it's a lot of it is by example. A lot of it is by being present, doing the work ourselves. So we've had house helps, but we've never had a nanny for her. So we had people come and help us clean the house, or when work is getting too much, we've had that, but we've not had a nanny that will bathe her, change her diaper, or take her to school for us, and all those sort of things. We were doing it ourselves. And the best example that a child can have is what they can read in a person, what they see in their parents. So that goes a long way. Her dad was very intentional. He was there. He was available. I was, and I'm still available to her. So she reads the examples. She reads books. We teach her. We expose her to things. We explain things to her as well, so that you can expand her mind. In fact, when I have my sessions, if it's something that is child friendly, I will make sure she sits beside me and she listens to my seminars. And that's why her mind is so expanded, and she's very wise because she's very exposed to a lot of things. Even in terms of training, there's some trainings that if I feel she can digest it, I will register on those trainings, mini public speaking courses, emotional intelligence courses. When they're doing stuff in church, summer camp, I will register her there. It was just having a plan for her, not just letting each day go by. What are
Not
we doing
just
today? What
winging
are we
it,
doing today?
winging it,
No,
winging it.
we don't know, no winging it. Having set goals, having a vision, understanding her personality type, her love language, her perceptual code, just trying to know everything about her, and so that we can channel her in the right direction. Those were the things that we were doing to ensure that she gets to where she is, and we're grateful to God as to where the results that we have now. And there's no going back really at this point. Thank
Praise
God.
God. Yes. So I want you to speak a little bit on that. Maybe a parent out there will gain, not particularly from your own experience, but how can you articulate what the perception code of a child is? How can a parent understand it?
That's a course on its own.
I
That's a
know
course on
that.
its own.
Yes, I know that.
Yeah, that's a course on its own. But let me put it this way.
Simply.
When Jesus came into the world, when he came to the world, at a very early age, they knew he was a king. They came with gold, with gifts, gold, frankincense, myrrh. People came to worship him at that age. Imagine worshiping a 3-month-old baby now. What would that look like? It would look like
This
it
is
doesn't make
Rema.
any sense.
Please, when the course
But they
comes up, I
already
want to
knew.
register.
They already knew his perceptual code, and that's why he was worshipped even as a baby. When they give you a child, so I tell people that if you are the mother or father of Jesus, will he have been able to accomplish the things that God sent him to do, or you will have beaten everything out of him? Say, for example, there was a time when Jesus went away and was missing for 3 days. By the time they found him, you did not hear that they beat Shege out of him.
Oh my goodness.
Because they already understood this child. They understood. So when you have your child, What do you see? Do you just see a baby that will, just like every other person, mediocre baby? This one will go to nursery school, primary school, this secondary school, this university, have a degree. Hey, my child has degree, or you post it on Facebook. Is that the vision for that child? What do you see? Do you see a king? Do you see a queen? Do you see a hero, a leader, a world changer, a global changer? What do you see? Do you see a celebrity? There has to be something deep that you see in your child. That is the perceptual code. And you raise that child in that direction.
Do you know that there's this lady? Let me see if I can get her name, but I've studied her. Yes, Angela Duckworth. She's the proponent of grit, G-R-I-T, grit. And she tells the story of when there was this lady who was, somebody met one day. The lady had a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old years ago. And they asked her, hi, what are the names of your kids? And all of that. She said, the 3-year-old is a doctor, the 4-year-old is an architect. That was how she said it. And the person looked at her and she said, no, that's obviously who they are. Do you know these children with training, with everything, that's what they grew up to be. And you know, they're Asians, and I get to hear that the Asians, they actually see this in their children. They start, that's why you see the Chinese from 3-year-old or 4-year-old, they're doing this acrobatics, they're doing all of this. So how do you think, let's narrow it down to Nigeria, how can we begin to, you know, inculcate the importance of this code in parenting? That's why I said, if you have a course like that, please put it out there. I'm sure so many people will enroll, because we don't start thinking about what our children will do till they get to GSS3, transiting to SS3, SS1. When the schools send, because it just happened to my son, he's entering SS1. The school sends that form out and says, this is what, pick the subjects. So how early is early for you to begin to prepare your kids for the future? Okay.
The thing is, you have to take it one day at a time.
Okay.
What's this black man's name? I can't remember. Samuel L. Jackson didn't find his own purpose, and he didn't start till he was in his 50s. Yeah. So there's some people that will find it early. By exposing the child to different activities, you may be able to see that, oh, my child likes football or ballet or dance or computer work or whatever. And there's also a thing that parents do, and globally, which is cultural. You believe that the child should be the doctor. We always have doctor in our house. So it must be this one, it must be the pharmacist, and this must be the architect. Whether the child wants it or not, you groom the child in that direction. That can have errors. Many people that are on fulfilled careers today, they may be making a lot of money, but they're not happy doing it. So there can be room for error if we're not careful. So what we need to do is that we are journaling and we are tracking our children. We are observing the things and the activities that they like and seeing the direction in which they are heading. You expose them to as many activities as possible. Okay. And with time, you will see that they will drop this one, drop that one. You begin to see that this child is really interested in this. And then you begin to pay attention to that. Like I remember my daughter really loved dance and ballet. We had to convert our living room to make it safe for her to be tumbling so that she doesn't hurt herself, remove any obstacles from the way. But eventually, we had to create something like a studio for her to be dancing. We got her to follow Simone Biles online, bought her books, resources, all sorts of things that will help her to become a good dancer, which she still is today.
She still is,
so that's how you do your observation. Nobody can do it for you. I mean, some schools will pick up that your child is very good on the football field, but there might be some things that the school does not offer that you might have to do on your own at home. And then you see that, oh, maybe it's even when you're cooking that the child likes to, join you and stuff like that. And then the child becomes a chef. If a child is drawing properly and is very creative with their drawing or assembling stuff, it doesn't mean that that child is going to be an architect or somebody. It just means that the child is creative. So explore everything about creativity. Let the child have access to things that he or she can create. Don't just say, oh, you can draw, you can draw. You're going to be an architect in this family. No. You might be able to draw, but it might be that you are a graphic designer.
Yeah.
It might be that you are an interior decorator, a horticulturist. It just means you're creative.
It's just that
Your
creativity.
brain is working in a way that is going to arrange things and organize things. It doesn't make you an architect. It can make you a million and one other things. So we must stop trying to choose career for our children, even in schools, even S3 and stuff. We shouldn't try and force them into, box them in. I mean, I went to medical school, did biochemistry, did masters in business administration, did grade school, worked in the bank for 10 years and everything. But now I just do what I love. For me, it's effortless. You know, people say, oh, they're afraid to call me. Maybe I'm so busy. I enjoy what I'm doing. It's only if I don't have the time to do it that I won't do it. As long as I have the time to do it, I will do it. If I'm not too tired and if my schedule is not blocked, I will make myself available, because this is what I want to do for my country. This is what I want to do in my country. This is my own quota. I don't want to sit somewhere and be complaining. And to the glory of God, in the past 10 years, there has been some kind of impact in the lives of people. And I thank God for it. Yeah. It's cost me. Of course. Because things like this, when you are doing stuff like this, you don't always
you're pushing the boundaries,
you're pushing the boundaries, and everybody will be comfortable with it. So you will lose friends, you will lose family, you will lose stuff, but you keep going as long as you know that it's God that has sent you to do something. Yeah.
But you know, the funny thing is, when you're consistent in terms of the fact that you know this is part of what you are born to do, at the end of the day, people will start getting on board. That's the thing.
Yeah, they'll get used to you.
Yeah, they'll get used to you and they'll get on board, which is quite the case now, because I must confess, you're well sought after in this area. So the thing I would want to ask is this: you were talking about how, you know, loading the child with opportunities to express themselves, whether it be their creativity or their love for numeracy or whatever. So the question now is this: is it then possible that this saying that the idle mind is a devil's workshop actually plays out with children? Because when you have a child who has all these things they're doing, and especially when it's something they love doing, how do you think it would eventually impact their emotional, you know, you talk a lot about emotional intelligence and all that. How do you think it will impact the emotional intelligence and will help them in the long run?
So exposing children to activities, I can use the Montessori approach, for example.
Okay.
So even if you don't have a lot, because some people always think, oh, my audience is for rich people, that kind of thing. But even if you are just somebody that maybe you are outside in the garden or garden equivalent at the back of the house in the village, and there's a pot and there are some plants, flowers, and whatever, mud, the child can pretend cook. The child is pretending to cook. The child is pretending to serve somebody on a plate. You know, in doing all those things, there are many skills that are being learned. When the child is making the fufu or the eba with the clay, the child is being creative, putting the leaves as a form or soup. The child is being creative. The child is actually thinking critically before they can put that together. A thought pattern has gone into it. At that point, when the child is doing that also, the child is concentrating on the activity. So that is another skill that is very, very important. When that child comes to you and tells you that I want you to eat the eba and the whatever I have made, the child is communicating. These are 21st century skills. When the child is playing with the friends, when they're all playing and saying, this is the kitchen, come and buy the food from me, the child is collaborating and working with the friends there. So there are lots of skills that are being harnessed at that particular point in time. When the child's friends are annoying the child and the child is not fighting back, there's a level of emotional intelligence that the child is displaying. Because mommy has said that when you go out with your friends annoying you, don't strike back, don't use abusive words. That child is just by virtue of playing at the back of the house, a lot of skills are being explored, are being harnessed, are being displayed at that point in time.
I'm beginning to understand now what you meant by, you know, what the children see, what the government is displaying, and how it affects children. Because therein, this thing you just said in now ties in with the principle of children being tabula rasa. That means they take on anything. So you see what you just explained now about this child's play and everything. For anybody listening to this broadcast or who will ultimately listen to it, I think it's about time we started taking note of such things. Because when you talked about the Montessori approach now, like you said, people will just say, it's a money thing and all of that. We don't understand that in our very environment, there are things that our children can interact with, things they would do. You know, I don't know if you recently watched that young guy who was dancing, he was doing this ballet pirouettes in the rain during the pandemic. Yeah. So you
The one
see,
that was taken abroad.
yes, Disney has released the documentary on him and all of that. So I can imagine such a child. I'm sure he probably just didn't start dancing then. There must have been something the parents noticed, and you saw the kind of background he came from. So what you're saying to us now is, for a child to build innate, character or certain things, it's not bound by, should I say, status. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
It's
It's
not
not a
bound by
respecter of
status.
economic
It's not a
status. Yes,
of
it's
economic
not.
status. Yes.
Just
Good.
give them that good foundation. And when you give them that good foundation, when the opportunity comes, they pick it up. But when you don't
Okay.
prepare the children for anything, when the opportunity comes, they
They
will
don't
miss
know
it.
anything. They don't know anything. So it's like victory loves preparation. So I want to ask you this, Ronke. They usually would say nature and nurture, they are responsible for a child's behavior. And from what you said here, you've kind of let us understand that the brain of the child is pre-wired somehow, for them to embrace certain things. So how then would you, make us understand what role these two things play in how a child would grow in a place like Nigeria? Like, yes, we're talking globally, but the Niger wahala is plenty. So how can you balance that as a professional? What should you tell a parent?
I would just say you have to make do with whatever it is that is available to you. I can remember when my daughter was interested in ballet. I couldn't find any gymnasium, even in the posh areas. I couldn't find it. Years later, they told me there was a gymnasium in another state in Nigeria, but I couldn't find a fully functional gymnasium anywhere in Nigeria for her. So what we did was we started with the living room, like I told you before, where she was doing her tumbling. We bought some mats, did some bars, got balls for her and things for her to be using locally before we were able to get her a studio. There was nothing like a gymnasium, but at least you could have some expression and there's a mirror there and it's safe enough for her to move around. Make do with what is available to you. You can't just keep complaining. You complain, it doesn't change anything. Do your quota, pray, vote, and then whatever is available to you, improvise. You can't just be
Improvise,
watching other people,
improvise.
everybody else doing their own. You say, oh, if only I was in abroad, then my own life would have been better. Blah, 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 blah. There are people that ultimately one day, just like that boy, he was not abroad, but somehow he found himself there and his life has been transformed. But if you're sitting there doing nothing, nothing is going to happen. Make do with what you have and improvise.
Make do with what you have and improvise. And I quickly want to ask you, for those of you who have just joined us now, I'm with Ronke Adeniyi, aka RonkePosh. She's the founder of the Posh School, and at the beginning of the program, I ran through her bio. My dear, her antecedents are not here at all, at all, at all, and that's why she's in a good position to talk about this. And we're talking about the Nigerian child and endangered species, and she said in her books, she wouldn't necessarily say the Nigerian child is an endangered species because that will assume that the Nigerian child is going into extinction. And she says the Nigerian child will hold their own anywhere in the world, and it would interest you. Call 5 people that have made it in all these top-notch universities. At least one is a Nigerian child, and that's speaking, great things about the nation Nigeria. But then she's saying, look, with what is going on, something needs to be done. All hands need to be on deck. Everybody has to be engaged. And she's in good company with a number of people, thousands who are advocating. But then, if they're advocating and the parents are not willing to be part of this movement, therein lies the issue. And as part of her, contribution in the last over 10 years, she's released, I think it was in 2018, there was so much buzz about the Rights Kid 101. There was so much buzz about it back then. And I believe that this time, I mean, by 2022 that we are in now, I think there's a need for that book
It's
to
still
be
around.
brought. Yes, I know it's around. Yes, I know it's around. I mean, it's the contents of the book, what it stands for. I think it should be, rehashed. You know how it is with us. Every new thing that comes, we don't really believe in sustainability as a people. So I think it's necessary. So I wanted to just tell us, why did you embark on writing Right Kid 101? Let me just quickly put a picture of it on her books. You see, those are her two books. Right Kid 101 was written in 2018, and the second one is the current one, 101 Tips to Curb Beating and Shouting. So, Ronke, why did you come up with Right Kid 101?
So Right Kid 101 was in a place of self-discovery. I was actually in a training program, and it was like a spiritual encounter. The trainer, Sendusa, was training us and was talking about something. I can't even remember what he was talking about. But at that point, I just got my notebook and I started writing out the table of contents for the book.
Wow.
It was right there. I didn't know what was going to go in the book, but I knew that children had to be empowered. We were doing something about childhood and the impact of our childhood on our adult life or something. It was a very deep, immersive program anyway. So I think after everything had, was stirred up in me, I knew that there was a gap. I said to myself that, okay, if a parent can buy this book for their child, it can be a conversation starter. But if the parent is willing, but if the parent also does not have time for the child, they should. But if they don't, and somebody gives this child this book, or the parent even buys the book for the child, I want the book to be a tool that is enough for the child to be confident, to be knowledgeable, to be equipped as an individual. The child will understand their identity, mindset, X factor, manners, behavior, basic things in simple ways. I wanted the child to be able to do it if you don't even have somebody that will teach you. And if you do have somebody that will teach you, it will cause you to have questions to have with either your teachers, your parents, or your secondary gatekeepers. I wanted it to be a transformative guide, but something that the child can use independently. And that was how it happened.
It happened. So what's the age range for Right Kid 101? Because we can have people watching whose children fall within that age gap.
It's up to the age of 12. However,
Wow.
it also depends on how a child has been raised. If your child has not been exposed to so many things and they don't understand their own identity,
They
they
can
don't
still read
understand
this.
the X factor, they don't understand certain things, mindsets and stuff, and the child is 13, you can still get the book for the child. So it depends on where your child is. But if you want to theoretically place it, maybe 10, 11, 12, yeah, that age group,
Okay.
pre-teen age.
So we can get it in any bookstore then, any bookstore.
You can get it on Amazon and you can
Amazon,
order
okay.
directly from me.
Okay.
So you can use my Instagram, my YouTube, all my channels are RonkePosh. You
And
can order.
I'll put it up after the program,
Yeah,
because I'm sure
you
some
can
people
do
want
that.
to.
But it's available on Amazon UK and Amazon US.
Okay, so we have people who have been responding to some of the things you've been saying. Winnie or Mo Boba Morganson says, I agree with you, Ma. Kids learn from everything. My son of 8 years said to his class girl that hit him, my mom said I should never hit a girl, and King Daddy has never hit my mom. Wow. So you see,
Absolutely. Well
that's
done.
this thing. And somebody's reiterating, or you saying, if you don't prepare the children for anything, when the opportunity comes, they miss it. And I think that's
Absolutely.
one stellar point I've gotten out of this. Like I think I mentioned during part of the program, I don't know, it's a Greek saying or Latin saying, but it's victory loves preparation. So if you don't prepare, if you don't equip yourself, when the opportunity drops right in front of you, you won't even know what
Yeah.
to use it for. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I know it's been such a wonderful time. The hour is already up. I don't know where the time flew to. And I know you're a very, very busy person. You had a long day already. I don't know how you managed today, because I know you said you had a program earlier. But I'm so glad that you were able to make out time. And like I said, please, a rain check for whenever you want to have your training on the perceptual code, because I'm sure if anybody who is watching and you think you'll be interested in RonkePosh's perceptual code session indicates, because I tell you,
They're all
it's
available.
something.
They're all online. It's online now.
No,
So
no,
anybody that
no,
wants it,
no.
just
I know.
push.
It's
Hmm.
your training is online already. You put it online.
Yes, if you want it, you just pay for it and you get it.
Oh
You get
yes,
a
that
link.
means okay. It's okay. Okay, that means it's a bundle or something like that. Good. So we will also. The funny thing about this is, I guess you're one of those people who doesn't believe in making so much noise. Because I'm not flattering. I don't ever flatter anybody, and that's the truth. I believe in when you have substance, I would acknowledge it. When it comes to issue of parenting, like I said earlier, I call you a child whisperer because you walk your talk. You walk your talk. I mean, when I read things about your school, how you treat your staff, and all of that, I mean, it's commendable. And one thing I believe is you do it in steps, and before you know it, you've drawn a lot of people, a whole lot of people to just buy into it. And I pray that someday you would have the opportunity for a larger platform, probably even at the federal level. To no, I'm not. I'm serious. Like I said, I'm not flattering. To let us know that just one engagement at a time, and it's quite possible for us. Because I mean, if you don't want to talk about the Nigerian child, yeah, it's not your house in the UK. You're talking to us from now. So, but you are committed. And I think if we have more people who are committed and consistent, I mean, shout out to everybody who is in on this engagement to keep the Nigerian child safe. But today I say, Ronke, a big thank you. And I just want you to give us your last words for the Nigerian child before you leave.
There's hope for the Nigerian child. The Nigerian child is going to
Amen.
change the world. There's a lot
Amen.
of hope. Don't give up.
Amen.
Keep pumping
Amen.
in. I know people are running away, but don't give
Amen.
up. Even if you run away, continue to invest in Nigeria, continue to believe in Nigeria, continue to
Amen.
pray for Nigeria, because there's going to be a turnaround, a massive
Amen.
turnaround. The Nigerian child, as we've always done, will continue to make a difference in Nigeria, and we will
Amen.
keep on doing it until the change that we deserve and desire happens. Thank you. Thank you so much for
Thank you
inviting
very
me
much.
and for
Thank you.
listening.
Thank you. Okay, God bless you. Good night. And
Thank
for
you,
everybody
ma'am.
who
Good
joined
night.
us today, thank you for joining us on this edition of Live with OSA. Good night. God bless you.